Supreme Court adjourns judgment in the suit challenging the new monetary policy to 3rd March 2023. CBN sticks to presidential directive to reissue only 200 naira old bank notes. And Asia markets fall as New Zealand hikes rates to 14-year high. Plus, oil falls on worries interest rates will rise more and curb fuel demand. This is Business Express on the network service of the NTA, and we are reaching you from Abuja, the nation's capital. I am Benny Adams, your guide. Yes, it is 3 days, 4 hours, 59 minutes to the general elections. And as politicians are putting final touches to their campaigns, the business community is also busy. And we start by telling you that the Central Bank of Nigeria has described as fake a press release purported to have emanated from the bank to the effect that President Muhammadu Buhari has approved the reissuance and release of old 500 and 1,000 naira notes as legal tender in the country. The CBN, in a statement jointly signed by Edward Adamu, Deputy Governor Corporate Services, and Osita Nwani-Subi, Director Corporate Communications, reiterated that only 200 old notes are to be reissued and to circulate concurrently with the new notes as directed by President Muhammadu Buhari. The statement therefore advised the public to ignore the fake news as the bank is working with law enforcement agencies to investigate, apprehend and prosecute the purveyors of this fake news. And now, a dimension to the Naira redesign and cashless policy of the Central Bank of Nigeria is extra charges on transactions by traders and point-of-sales operators, talking about POS. This has continued unabatedly despite warnings by the Apex Bank to withdraw the licenses of any agent caught inflating charges on customers. Bosse Abel, who has been monitoring this trend, now reports.
Access to cash for some time now comes with a cost, either in monetary or time value, since the Naira redesign policy became effective. Allegations of exorbitant charges for cash are rife nationwide, causing tempers to flare. James Nwofe, a POS operator and shoe seller, gives his reason.
It depends. They sell it 2.5, this one. But if the person beg me to, I later sell it like 2,300. I'll put that 100 naira so that my money will come out.
I went to buy something today and the money for the shirt was about 1,800, but I paid 1,900. It said for the extra charges, and I paid because I wanted the shirt.
I was supposed to buy meat of 2004 because I don't have cash with me. I have to transfer 2.8 for me to pay the man that is selling meat. So it's really affecting us.
I was owing a woman 150 naira. I wanted to go and buy another thing 150 to pay 500 to pay 300. Then to transfer 500 naira to her. She said I will put charges of 100 naira.
I didn't charge anybody because if I collect the transfer, if I want to buy something, me too, I used to do transfer to the person.
Abuja residents believe the need for functional regulatory framework will safeguard the economy against systematic failure. They say it is imperative in the midst of widespread distress in financial transactions coupled with irregularities. In Abuja, Bosse Abel, NTA News.
And amid high risks of global recession and softer demand in key export markets, high interest rates, the cost of debt service and risks of debt distress, in addition to climate-related risk, commodity dependence and price volatility. The African Development Bank, AFDB, is of the view that efficient public finance management, policy coordination, structural reforms to boost trade and build resilience, in addition to strategic industrial policies, is the way to grow the African economy.
Take the SDRs, for example. We can leverage those XDR by 3 to 4 times. And we are working very closely, Jeff, with Kristalina right now and our team with the Inter-American Development Bank on a model that we presented to them that they're looking at quite positively on how we can actually access these SDRs and then have this multiplicative effect to be able to deliver more for Africa. So optimizing that global financial architecture is going to be very, very critical. IMF focusing on the global macroeconomic fiscal stability, us, the multilateral development banks, focusing on sectoral issues, but also our business model also needs to change.
And the federal government's promise to strengthen the national grid and increase capacity to supply public power to Nigerians is being fulfilled. At the groundbreaking of a 2x30x40 MVA substation in Akwa Ibom State, the Minister of State for Power, Godi Jedi Agba, assures the people of Abia and Akwa Ibom states of improved power supply on completion. Clement Baikui reports.
Located in a Didep community in Ibionibom local government area of Akwa Ibom State, the 6.8 billion naira power substation project is targeted at addressing power supply challenges to 8 local government areas of the state and parts of neighboring Abia State. Minister of State for Power, Prince Godi Jide Agba, says all the needed framework, including funding, have been concluded to ensure the project is delivered on schedule.
And things have been put in place, and every day, every hour, generation improves, and our performance is improving day in, day out. That's why we're here today. By the time we finish this thing, people will relocate here.
I go high in attracting and bringing projects that will influence the lives of people. This is my own peculiar way of campaigning, bringing up what APC is doing and challenging people to vote for APC.
The 2x30 and 40 MVA substation with a 132 kV line bay and 33 kV feeders is expected to strengthen the national grid by increasing its wheeling capacity to 25,000 megawatts by 2025. The project is expected to be completed in 18 months. In Uyo, Clement Barikui.
And to ease of doing business in Nigeria, which is an ongoing conversation, and to walk the talk, several reforms have been introduced to ensure its realization. The latest is the signing of the Business Facilitation Miscellaneous Provision Bill, which is now an act signed by the President, and to take a look at the Nigerian investment ecosystem in its entirety is an investment expert, Obonna Ukuku. You are welcome to Business Express.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Benny.
Well, people might say you're talking about investment amid cash crunch. Let's start with the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court has yet adjourned to 3rd of March the case between the state and federal government as regards to the use of the old 500 and 1,000. But thankfully, the 200 President Mahmoud Buhari has promised Nigerians is in circulation. Has it reached you? And what's your view about all of this?
It's just that I've just come to realize, these few days that most of the cash we carry around, we really don't need them. If you're able to, basically plan yourself, you don't need some of those cash. But I mean, I'm talking about myself because I'm in the urban area, a lot of transfers, I can handle stuff with transfers. But I mean, people who are in the rural areas, I don't think it's going to be that easy for them to cope. But nevertheless, the most important thing is, having this conversation properly, because I have looked at being able to x-ray the entire issue, and I asked myself a very simple question. We all need to come to that place where we understand that, yes, there are 3 tiers of government when you're discussing government. There are, there are also arms of government when you're also discussing government. But when you're discussing economy, there are 2 segments. There are monetary authorities and there are fiscal authority. Now, if you look at it, the independence of the monetary policy authority is something you need to, critically look at before you begin to, speak to what they do. Because if you give them independence, which is exactly what the entire globe is looking at, how to make their central bank independent. Because when they take decisions, their decisions have to stand. Because let's even look at it from an investment point of view. Now, if an investor knows that in your country that there is so much interference from government, be it the judiciary or the legislature, we're still talking about the physical, they form part of the physical authorities, okay? Now, if they influence the monetary policy actors, you see, it gives them this, it gives a bad signal, because anybody that wants to come and do business understands.
You mean that might likely go for a red flag or what?
Of course it does, because I can remember Bloomberg asking the Governor Emefiele some few months ago about who is it the president that is telling you to the exchange rate you should use. They kept on asking him that question. I kept on saying no, it is the policy managers who sat down at their own meeting and then agreed that this is what is going to be. Because those kind of things, see, everything about investment is about perception. If I have a wrong perception about your economy, it just sends the red flag, and people now begin to pull back. Because what it simply means is that if I invest in this country, a day might come when the highest court in the land might decide to say, okay, that investment is no more yours, and that's the end of it. So these are the things we need to, the political actors should also be very careful when they take certain decisions, because you want to decide basically for some reasons, you want some monies in circulation. I don't care, I'm not interested in whatever the reason is, but you need to look at the bigger picture. The bigger picture is you're sending a wrong signal that your federal government can actually influence the independence of your monetary policy, ecosystem.
And that might lead to calling shots that shouldn't be.
Of
That will get
course.
to affect the economy, whether immediately or in long term.
In a long term, it will. You might get your gains for now, but in the long term, it sends the wrong signal. And when I see some of the governors, I see these are people who even understand what it means by ease of doing business, what it means, when it comes to. See, I can say this. I mean no disrespect to life loss, during insurgency. If I want to do business in a place and they say, in the investment world, if I want to do business and you say, oh, there's insurgency there, I can actually use insurance to cover my business, all right? Nothing goes wrong.
To get in the share.
Now, if you tell me that there's interference by political system, I will run away. I won't do business. It's a known fact. So
because that you can't insure.
That you can't insure. Nobody can insure that for you. So it's an instability in your bureaucratic system can actually affect so much when it comes to investment.
Okay, let's talk about investment, the ease of doing business, vis-a-vis the perception the world has got about Nigeria before now and the situation we are in. How can this perception go to mold or be in favor or disadvantage to the Nigerian investment ecosystem?
Now, see, we need to begin to pick issues one after the other when it has to do with the investment ecosystem. Now, our aftercare support system that we provide to investors, the advocacy we were able to in their sojourn trying to do business in your country, your ability to streamline the amount of interface they are going to have with different government agencies, how they are dealt with at the subnational. These are the things that you must be able to, there has to be a conflict, there has to be a way where you be able to streamline some of these things. Ease of doing business. See, nothing is done in isolation. Okay, so somebody wants to set up, like let's say somebody wants to set up a cassava processing plant in, let's say, in Ogun State. Okay, so he needs to go get, land in Ogun State. He needs to be able to, all the permits. He needs to deal with bankers. He needs to deal with road transport workers, because things moving from the farm gates.
Even the community.
Deal with community. So these are things we need to find a way to make it easier for them, because that's where the advocacy comes from.
How would you assess? I understand that in the NIPC, talking about Nigeria Investment Promotion Commission, there is a one-stop shop that tends to look at these issues, not just at the federal level, but also getting to coordinate some of this ease of doing business, like you've mentioned with the subnationals, because investment most times is not just at the center, but also at the states, particularly states that are endowed with natural resources when you talk about mining and some other level of investment, even in the commodity market.
Now, the one-stop shop, as it was set up, so many years ago during Obasanjo's regime, President Obasanjo's regime, yes, these are things it needs to be improved upon. The stakeholder forum, organized by the NIPC recently, these were the conversations that were placed on the table, based on there needs that see, when you look at what they have done thus far, you need to review, and then after reviewing what the agencies of government that participate in or have signed to it, so you need to increase the level of autonomy that they have. So I mean the desk officers, if they're able to give approvals. So I think going forward, from what the commitments from the executive secretary, these are things that she's looking at, going through them, making sure that you get that approval authority with those who are domiciled there. But that's a bit different from being able to pull the states, the subnationals, into the one-stop shop. They are not in there right now. So, but what they have at the NIPC is they have zonal offices. So the zonal coordinators who interfaces with those at the government level. So I mean, these interactions have been going on. I mean, by the time they met the IPAs, as the investment promotion agencies, at the state level. So these were conversations, and then I mean, moving forward, there were some agreements which basically will come up from them, which would eventually be useful to everybody in the ecosystem.
I've met in one or two forums. One of them is in Dubai. The recent one was in New York, where you were meeting some international business connections, trying to say, come to Nigeria and invest. How is that going? What's the perception? Has there been active participation, apart from mentioning, apart from the declaring, okay, we're going to invest so amount of money? Do we have anything solid in Nigeria? Have we had some investors actually coming through your link and so those other links you are associated with, government and private partnerships, to get investments into Nigeria?
Sometimes it's just an ongoing conversation, because I mean, this is a field that you are a major player in. So you keep having that conversation. Yes, you go back and forth, on issues. Okay, these are the things you want to get done. Those are the kind of things we're talking about. Ease of doing business. There has to be this, that as someone who's participating in investment promotion, I can tell you, until we have a plug and play approach to investment promotion, it becomes a bit difficult to even convince investors. You have to go back and forth, because whether you like it or not, people have funds, and then you see investors, I always say this, they are like water. They flow to areas of least resistance. So if they see any resistance, they pull back. They need to see everything is clear, because they need to be able to have from point A to the last point, which is their exit plan. How to, yes, we have high return on investment in Nigeria. The kind of things we sell. We have large population. It depends on the kind of investment you want to put in, but most critically, yes, we're having that conversations back and forth. We're trying to discuss with them, trying to convince them, because it's when we convince them that we too we are doing okay, and then we are comfortable in our own business. So it's an ongoing conversation. So some of this, so these are why. Some of these issues are the things that make us want to have general conversations to everybody. Say, prepare. You have to be investor ready as a nation for you to be able to receive the kind of investment you're looking for. So when we are going out borrowing to do infrastructure, we see it's not supposed to be our last resort. We should be able to also explore being able to use other people's funds to fund some of the infrastructure. So we need to be able to design, some structure that will be able to accommodate investment, some high level investment to, our infrastructure, to, some of the things that government is expending money on. So like I said, it's an ongoing conversation.
Okay, talking about an attractive business environment, particularly for Nigeria and in Nigeria, President Muhammadu Buhari just about last week signed into law the Business Facilitation Bill, which goes to a large extent amends 21 business-related laws. Don't you see that as a magic wand for ease of doing business in Nigeria? How far can that go?
Yes. Now we see when it's being signed, when a law is being, as soon as you sign a law, you sign it into law. Yeah. Right? So the next thing is the advocacy. People need to also come there. You have to try the waters. So you need to be able to either use those who are already domiciled in your country to, push them to invest in other areas. Then the next thing will be, you now go for out road shows to tell people, okay, these are the things that have happened. So like I said, you need to test the waters. It needs to also show that after this there are no other problems that investors are facing. So I mean, I know that critical, the ease of doing business committee, the team, they've been looking at some of these issues.
That's
to be able
PEBEC,
PEBEC, they've been looking at some of these issues, to distill the problems that those who want to do business in Nigeria are facing. So, but I mean, it keeps evolving, because I mean, new problems will always come up and all of that. But like I said, it's just been signed into law, so the advocacy starts. Then we begin to mention them to investors, talk to the right people, say these are the things that have happened, and then again, of course, you shouldn't also isolate the fact that this is an election year. So a lot of people are standing on the fence, watching to see the direction. They want to know who's going to take over power, to understand
what's the policy direction, and the possible impact we're going to get at the end of the day.
Pretty much. So that's exactly what's going to happen for now.
Thank you so very much, Ogbonna Okuku. You've always been highly resourceful. We'll keep calling for you.
All right. Thank you so much for having me, Benny.
Thank you.
Let's see the prices of other commodities in the market. And Nigeria's equities market made a rebound midweek to recover from losses recorded in Tuesday's session. By the close of the trade, the all-share index advanced to 54,315.53 basis points from 54,189.31 basis points in the previous day's trade, with equity capitalization also closing out this session at 29.58 trillion naira. 129.91 million shares also exchanged hands in 2,678 deals, valued at 3.92 billion naira. Now let's take a look at the global market.
European markets were lower Wednesday as investors gauge the global economic outlook and await the minutes from the U.S. Federal Reserve's latest monetary policy meeting. DAX, FTSE and CAC traded red. Asian markets were also lower after Wall Street's sharp losses overnight, and New Zealand's central bank continued to hike its benchmark interest rate. Japan's Nikkei 225 finished 1.34% lower at 27,104.32 as the nation's producer price index rose 1.6% on an annualized basis. The Shanghai Composite dropped 0.47% to finish at 3,291.15, and Hang Seng Index was 0.51% lower. U.S. stock futures were little changed Wednesday as Wall Street braced for the Federal Reserve's latest meeting minutes and more insight on the central bank's future hiking agenda. Futures tied to the Dow Jones Industrial Average added just 16 points. For Africa, most stocks traded mostly negative, while Ghana's GSA Composite rose 0.98%. Bosede Able, Business Express.
Thank you, Bosede, and that wraps Business Express for today. Remember to keep in touch with us. Do send in your comments, observations, and suggestions. Also be informed that previous episodes are available on YouTube on the NTA's channel. You can also communicate with us via our various social media platforms. Business Express returns Thursday at 9:30 a.m.